Although oftentimes described as the gold standard for research, especially when relating to the medical field, randomized controlled trials are not without their weaknesses. Some weaknesses that appear within the randomized controlled trial structure are associated with ethical issues, recruiting a sufficient sample size, and finally, the high costs associated with these types of studies. The ethical issues associated with randomized controlled trials include many aspects ranging from consent to minimizing risk and maintaining confidentiality. In some cases, it may not be feasible to perform a randomized control trial because the random assignment of participants may be considered unethical given certain circumstances. One of the most important issues raised by these studies is whether it is ethical to withhold effective interventions from research subjects in order to satisfy scientific objectives. For example, if a scientist creates a treatment for a certain ailment that they believe is more effective than the one being offered, they may choose to explore this by means of randomized control trial. This would of course mean that one group of subjects may receive an inferior treatment to the other group. In certain cases, when dealing with potentially life-threatening effects of either receiving or not receiving a treatment, the ethics must be heavily considered. Some ethical considerations when creating a randomized control trial include free and independent choice of the participants without coercion, provision of informed consent of the participants, maximum benefit with minimum risk, equal opportunity for all to participate in the trial, and a bias-free trial. In order to achieve statistical significance, an RCT must be large enough to collect central tendencies within the study population that can then be generalized to a larger population. Central tendencies attempt to describe an entire data set with a single middle range value that captures the center of its distribution. If we were to look at any individual or small group for these central tendencies, it wouldn't be representative of a larger population and therefore more difficult to apply broadly. For example, there may be individuals that show up to a randomized controlled drug trial because unfortunately they have tried everything else and are desperate for any sort of treatment. This would then beg the question if the results would be generalizable to a larger population that wouldn't be as desperate in seeking out this treatment. It begs the question of whether they would have ever enrolled in the study in the first place. This is all to say that participants that volunteer might not always be representative of the entire population and therefore the central tendencies associated. The need for a large sample size alongside the time-consuming nature of RCTs contribute to the high cost of randomized controlled trials, another weakness of these studies.